Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. I know it's a Monday, but I'm still excited. Top story today is your money. Mike Trainer just stole all my thunder. I love that story. Let me give you more details on the NVIDIA coming to build some supercomputer manufacturing parts in Texas. It's twofold here for Texas because they have announced that starting in 2025, they're going to break ground, or they're going to start the planning on a manufacturing plant here in Dallas, and another one in Houston as well. They're expecting production to ramp up in about 12 to 15 months. So I don't want to say it's probably not going to happen before the end of this year. But they just announced this today. So they're partnering with Foxconn. That's the people who have the, I don't want to bag on them, but they have the manufacturing facilities in China where the people have discontented employees. We'll just say that. But over here, I'm sure it'll be different. We're not going to have people jumping off the factories here. We actually have little worker protections and whatnot. It's a little more expensive here, but in order to get around some of the goofy tariff stuff that's happening and the trade war and the crazy Chinese Communist Party oversight and stealing your intellectual property and trying to reverse engineer all your technology and stealing it yourself, there's plenty of reasons for them to come over here. They are a California-based company, NVIDIA, and they're not just making supercomputer parts here in Houston and Dallas, but they're also going to have an artificial intelligence chip production plant in Phoenix. Not bad. So all these new investments, some nerd over at the Houston Business Insider, thank you very much for your work. They added up the square feet footage of these new factories, the three new ones. 1 million square feet. 1 million square feet of U.S.-based production capacity. And so, look, I'm going to give you a whole lot of good news. You're hearing a lot of fear-mongering and probably too much on the Team Red side of the aisle. Team Blue's just all over it. They're acting like this is the apocalypse. But let me give you some more positive news that's not going to make headlines because it doesn't fit the narrative. Last week, at the end of last week, Panama made a deal for free passage of U.S. warships. You know, that's not like an economic thing that affects your bank account, but that is progress. We're on the international front. Donald Trump kind of sounded like a little bombastic saying, we're going to take the Panama Canal back. Well, this is sort of a step in that direction. Now the United States is getting preferable treatment instead of the previous preferred nation of influence over there, China. Also last week, this is another, not necessarily economic, but politically and diplomatically interesting story. Saudi Arabia has banned public support for free Palestine. So I guess we can do it here on the campus of Columbia up to a certain extent, but you can't do it in Saudi Arabia at all. You would think, wouldn't they be on the side of the Palestinians over, I don't know, the Israelis? But that's kind of huge. We know Iran talks happened this weekend. We had a sort of a heads up that was going to happen on Saturday and Sunday. And I know it went well because I can't see a headline on it. You see how that works? If it's good news, they don't print it. If it's bad news, it would be the top story all day until enough people were scared, and then the fear started to wane. So, I actually, before the show, I was trying to look at some more details. How did it go? Must have gone pretty good because no one's crying about it. So we also have the markets that are continuing their recovery, and a lot of that is because of this NVIDIA deal. So when you look at the Dow right now, up 1.3%. And so I did my little phone app. If you have an iPhone and you want to keep up with this, you know there's an app that just says stocks, right? And it used to be a terrible app 15 years ago. They keep improving it little by little. That's probably the thing I lean on more than anything else these days. I used to have to download the Fox Business app and try and use their tools. But if you just go to regular old stocks on the iPhone app, hit the Dow Jones, turn it sideways, and start playing with your thumbprint, and you could see that the market is pretty much recovered to where it was in late August. Now, in late August, were there headlines flying all over the place about how people's retirement has been destroyed and how people on fixed incomes are in a crunch? No. No, there was no apocalyptic reporting on the state of the economy or the stock market or 401ks or IRAs or pension funds or any of that. That's where we are now. So there's some lessons to be learned already just from what we see here. Anyone who continues to act like the market is dying in a fire, but they were cheery about the market in August. These are the people who either they're intentionally dishonest or they're not paying enough attention. They're just repeating whatever is on the screen in front of them. And that's there's a book. My friend was telling me about it, which is good. Now I don't have to read it. But Stephen L. Miller wrote a book about how so many people in the media just want to be at the cool kids table. Believe me, I know. These people in the media, like in the news, they look like they were captain of the football team. Look at this guy with his nice haircuts and he's clean cut and he's wearing a suit. No, these were the theater kids. Believe me, I've worked at several TV stations. These were the theater kids in high school. They were not cool. Maybe not all of them were outcasts, because some of them are handsome and pretty, but they weren't the cool kids in school. And so then they see all these other people on other stations and in other outlets and on the Associated Press and in Reuters and on CNN. They just repeat what they say. They just repeat and pass along the information that they're given. They don't put a whole lot of critical thought in it. Or if the AP said it, then I'm just going to turn around and I'm going to pass it along. I might put my little spin on it or whatnot. But these people who are freaking out about the market right now, but they were cheery about it in August, these are not critical thinkers. So they're either active propaganda or just dim people who go along with whatever the wire services tell them. I think that's a big lesson there. Was I freaking out about the market in August? Were you freaking out about the market in August? Well, then you shouldn't be now. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Richard Stern from the Heritage Foundation will find out the latest on tariffs between the U.S. and China. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, while so many of the tariff negotiations are being worked out through the little 90-day pause here, the big one that we're all watching is the situation with China. For more details on that, my next guest is Richard Stern from the Heritage Foundation. Welcome to the James Show, Richard.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
All right, before we get into the details of how it's going between the U.S. and China, U.S. struck a deal with Vietnam, and this seems to be like a big deal. Your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. So I think, what you're seeing here is that for really decades, the Chinese Communist Party has had a malign influence on our economy, that of all of our trade partners, and Vietnam is one of those. And so what you're looking at here is a U.S. president in the form of Trump who finally is taking these countries to account and saying, look, if you're going to let the Chinese Communist Party have access to your economy and be able to flood goods through your country into ours, we've got to do something about it. And so you're now seeing all of these countries rushing to work with us to box China out of global economic affairs and really get to a world of true free trade.
Well, I find it interesting because is this some kind of workaround to the tariffs where China can't sell to us and we can't sell to China, but China can sell it to Vietnam and Vietnam can sell to us? Is there some trickery going on here?
No. So I think what you're looking at here is that we're trying to work out different products and things that are of more or less critical national security influence. So, again, the goal is to try to put as much of an airtight component around it in terms of goods that would pose a real threat to U.S. national security, to make sure that the Chinese Communist Party isn't influencing those supply chains, but doing it in a way where we're erring on the side of ensuring that national security preservation for us through these extended supply chains, but not over penalizing trade, that's Vietnam to China directly or some of these other countries. Again, the goal here is to make it so that these countries will trade with us and not stop trading with us and just work with the Chinese. So there's a balancing act here.
So how long do you think China can hold out? Because what we have here is sort of the economic version of siege warfare, where we've got you surrounded and we're not allowing goods in or out, and we'll see how long you can last.
Oh, so I think one of the important things to recognize about China is their economy is stalling anyway. Their economy is based on bad debt and government central planning. You have a full third of Chinese firms are actually underwater in terms of profitability. So the Chinese economy was faltering anyway. And this, of course, just turns up the pressure on them quite a bit. So I don't know how long they can last. And the truth is, the autocratic government over there might just insist on forcing their population into poverty instead of them actually coming to the table and ending some of these really terrible practices that they maintain. But the choice is theirs, right? At the end of the day, they could stop doing some of these things that are more nefarious and get back to having an okay economy and starting to work with the rest of the world, or they can keep doubling down what they've been doing, which is becoming more and more of a threat and a pariah to the globe and having more and more poverty because of it.
Well, I'm sure China overall is going to stay intact and be fine, but Xi Jinping, is he at risk of losing power over this?
I think for sure. And what I would say is, he has in his tenure taken a growing dynamic economy and stalled it and created all of these other problems for them. And so while, yes, he's certainly strengthened his hand and his political control, I think that highlights exactly how much the public has shifted out from under him. The business community has shifted out from under him in China as well. So it's hard to know what the last straw will be that'll break the camel's back on this one. But, I would not want to be in his position for sure.
All right. Richard Stern from Heritage Foundation. I heard Kevin Hassett this morning on Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business, and he made a bold statement that he does not expect a recession this year. In fact, he said 100% no chance of a recession.
Kevin, real quick, are you expecting a recession this year?
100% not.
Isn't that a heck of a level of confidence there?
Well, I would say I've never have 100% confidence in anything, so I certainly wouldn't say that here. But I think he's right in the basic part of this, which is that I think we're unlikely to see a recession this year. And I will tell everyone we're going to have first quarter economic growth numbers come out that are going to look bad. It's actually an accounting error because of the way that we handle international trade. The economists, the way that we handled on our Excel spreadsheets. But it doesn't really mean that there's negative growth. And so I think when you're looking forward to all the other things going on, it's probably unlikely that we're going to actually get 2 real quarters of negative economic growth with, a spike in unemployment. So anything's possible, but I think he's basically right that it seems like a very low probability.
Do you have any inside info on the rumor that we're going to get a bunch of trade deals announced within hours?
I don't have more intel than I think it's going to kind of run around the public, but I'm not surprised by this. Again, there were 15 countries that came out in the first minute and reached out to the White House, and they had already been working out deals. And you have 75 countries in total that reached out to the White House. And, it's not really that these negotiations started overnight. These negotiations have been ongoing for decades. Everybody knows what abuses each other does. Everybody knows each other's quotas and tariffs and constant manipulation, all these things. It's just that you finally have a moment here where everybody's like, okay, we'll come to the table. We'll cut some deals on the things that have been on the table and being discussed for decades. So it wouldn't surprise me that they could move this quickly.
All right, Richard Stern, Heritage Foundation, how we find more of your work outside of WBAP?
Well, thank you for having me on. You can always find my bio page or follow me at Rich A. Stern on Twitter, and you can see all the stuff that I put out and that of my team as well.
All right, I'll go look you up. Thank you, Richard Stern, Heritage Foundation. Now, I want to finish playing that clip that I just played for Richard. It's the Kevin Hassett, the senior economic advisor, talking to Maria Bartiromo.
Kevin, real quick, are you expecting a recession this year?
100% not. 100% not. If you look at the jobs numbers, they're very, very strong. When I talk anecdotally to CEOs, I say things like, well, geez, is the uncertainty over tariffs looking like it's going to be a big drag? And they're saying things like, no, in terms of production, we're getting as much onshore as we can. And in terms of sales of foreign goods, people are buying as many as they can because they're worried about future tariffs. So everything's through the roof, anecdotally, with the CEOs I've been talking to. And the hard data on jobs have been really, really good.
There you go. Optimism over here. But remember, you are going to get nothing but apocalyptic headlines going forward. I can tell you right now, in 1 year, no one's going to be talking about tariffs. Probably in 6 months, no one's going to be talking about tariffs. They may in 3 months, but I have a feeling a lot of this is really going to get wrapped up in the next 90 days. You're never going to get credit. He's never going to get credit. The economy's never going to get credit. They'll just move on to the next apocalyptic disaster, the next doom-saying fire and brimstone. We're fine. We're fine. Your 401k's fine. Your IRA's fine. Your retirement's fine. We're all the way back to where we were in August. And if you weren't freaking out in August, you shouldn't be freaking out now, because now you're just inventing reasons to worry, and life's tough enough that we don't have to invent reasons to worry around here. But remember, this is what the news is going to be for the next 3.5 years. Period, point blank, end of story. Probably longer than that if a Republican stays in office. This is all you're going to get. You just forget. You don't remember what 2017 was like. Remember, they were telling you every day he was going to be in prison. He's just a few weeks away from being in prison. He's not going to finish his first term. The walls are closing in. Yeah, we're back to that now. So you can just ignore those people. They're wrong about everything anyway. Coming up next, what did Jasmine Crockett say this time? It's a new recurring episode on the James Show, and you'll hear it next. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Sports fans, have you been playing with the Prize Picks app like I told you? Because you can have a little extra fun. My golf friends, I know some of y'all had a little extra spice added to the Masters over the weekend, but I want to talk to my baseball friends. You know, one of the hard part about being a transplant, everyone around you here is a Ranger fan and you like some other team. Well, you can still feel that connection with your other team. If you're from San Francisco, you can say, Jung Ho Lee, will he have an 8 hitter fantasy score? What about James Wood from Washington? Will he have a 5.5 fantasy hitter score? Or you could do like pitcher strikeouts. You could do total bases and just in one game. You could do the hits and runs plus RBIs. There's all kinds of ways and combos you can still feel that connection to your team even though you're geographically disconnected, and you can do it with our money. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. You get $50 with your first $5 play. You hear that, baseball fans? Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. And with your first $5 game, you get $50 in promo cash that you can play with on your favorite players, on your favorite team, and turn it into some real money. Up to now, 2,000 times your cash. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What a great day. Weather's perfect, isn't it? Stock market's up, headlines are pretty good. I know it's a Monday and we're supposed to be dismal, but it's kind of hard. Look outside. How can you be dismal on a day like this? And especially when we have so much good content to do a radio show. It's our new segment, just burning up the charts here. It's the Jasmine. What'd Jasmine say this time?
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tea.
All right, so in today's episode of What Did Jasmine Say This Time? There's the obvious context that you're going to pick up. Look, let me preface this. We do not hate Jasmine Crockett. In fact, we invite her on their show probably 8 times already. We invited her again at the beginning of last week. We got the form letter back. What's the new girl's name? Because Chloe doesn't work there anymore. This is how much we try and get her on the show because we're sitting in her district. You have the biggest talk radio show, news talk radio show in the entire state of Texas. We're in her district, and she won't come on our show. But I want you to hear this. Of all the things you can question Trump on, after we just went through 4 years of President Roomba, the guy who had potato salad for brains, you're going to question Trump's mental fitness?
But this crazy tariff war that nobody asked for, where he basically is invoking emergency powers, the same thing that he did under the Alien Enemies Act, like the fact that no one is questioning his mental acuity or fitness to serve is beyond wild to me, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that mental fitness, that's got to keep an eye on that. Don't want to let a president through with questionable mental fitness. Y'all aren't allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say anything about the next guy's mental fitness when y'all just pretended like Joe Biden didn't have dementia for the last 4 years. Y'all finally had to admit it when you knew it was going to cost you the election. Well, maybe you should listen to the other side of the media divide that was telling you in advance, we saw something that you didn't. We saw something years in advance that y'all didn't have to admit to until June of last year. Remember, it's only been, June of last year. So it's only been 10 months since they admitted Joe Biden had some cognitive issues. Before that, they were telling you, this is the best Biden ever. No, you're not allowed to question Trump's mental fitness or really any president's mental fitness ever again. You've already shown that your ability to diagnose and perceive cognitive decline is pretty slim. Jasmine also brought back the complaint, and I will admit there is a both sides element to this, but I just want the lesson to be learned here. Don't do this. I heard a lot of Republicans do this. Sean Hannity, one of my friends, would gripe about Obama spending money going golfing. No one cares. They'd gripe about Biden going to the beach. I mean, maybe he should be doing his job, but the expense isn't a problem. So here's this old trope. Whoever's out of power, he's spending too much money.
We're going to talk about efficiency and worry about some solar paneled whatevers. Let's talk about the fact that as of March 30th, Trump's golfing has cost us approximately $26 million. And the last time I checked, we're not getting anything in return for that.
We're not.
I will get back on my remarks, but I just wanted to point out that maybe we need to talk about the president and his golfing habits. In fact, he decided that he was going to golf as the markets were tanking. He decided he was going to golf instead of receiving for heroes.
All right, can we make an agreement on both sides, Team Red and Team Blue? When the other guy's in power, don't gripe about how much it costs for him to golf. No one cares. It's a minuscule amount. And if you don't do it to all presidents and you only do it to the president on the other team, you're a hack. So either do it for all of them or do it for none of them. I prefer none of them. What's he supposed to do? Not golf? Not spend any money? He's just got to sit in the White House twiddling his thumbs, playing Nintendo Switch or something. What, he can't go to like Chuck E. Cheese and throw some skee ball. He can't go swing a couple rounds of golf, maybe play some pickleball. Who knows? Maybe take a couple laps around the pool. And I know it costs $26 million, but they have this giant security apparatus. They have to fly him in Air Force One. Hell, half of that's probably just the jet fuel going back and forth. Do you know how much a runway fee costs? Do you know how much it costs to haul all those SUVs down there so they can do the ridiculous motorcade everywhere they go? They have to drive the motorcade into, what's it called, a C-130? I remember Dan Bongino was explaining it on his show. There's just a giant plane where the butt opens up. I'm sorry, I don't know the technical terms. And then a bunch of cars drive in its backside. And that whole thing takes off with a fleet of cars in it. How much gas does that take? My Toyota gets like 30 miles a gallon. I think it's probably going to take a few more octane to get the whole motorcade there. It's okay. The president's going to go off. It's going to cost money. Another fun part of the criticism over the weekend here is they're pretending like they're shocked. So many people are pretending like they're shocked, like Trump is going to go after all illegals, not just the criminal ones. Yeah.
What is the strategy here from this White House?
The strategy is to go after anyone the president doesn't think belongs here. When he ran for president, he did this sort of rhetorical magic act where people heard he's going to go after violent criminals who are here, undocumented criminals. But then in the next breath, he would say, we're going to go after, quote unquote, criminal aliens. Well, if you come into this country without documentation, you, by the letter of the law, are a criminal.
Duh.
And so that, to me, was a signal. He's not just going after violent criminals. He's going after anyone who is not here, quote unquote, legally.
Are you? Oh, he's on to us, y'all. We actually want to deport all illegals. Well, thanks for catching up, Jonathan Capehart. He was saying those exact same sentences, and his voters were saying they wanted him to. People in surveys were saying they wanted it to. Hispanics were in favor of the deportation program. You're the only one that's still shocked by this. Where have you been? Oh, that's right. You thought we were going to be, what, burning crosses or something? Anyway, Jonathan Capehart again on Sunday on PBS.
What's shocking to me is that the courts, in some instances, don't seem to be meeting the threat here with much vigor. The idea that the court would say, the Supreme Court would say you need to facilitate the return of Mr. Abrega Garcia instead of saying, no, he must be returned. That, to me, is very troubling.
This was the man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
Yes.
Yeah, mistakenly. Did they leave out the part again where he's an illegal immigrant from El Salvador? Oh, yeah. Well, we need to return him home. All right, we'll just take him out of the prison down the street. He's home. He's from El Salvador. He belongs in El Salvador. He's a citizen of El Salvador. He wasn't supposed to be here anyway. Maybe he wasn't supposed to go to that prison, but bringing him back here? Hey, can you sneak him back in? Can we sneak in this illegal? Can we bring this guy back here illegally? What kind of system is that? All right, coming up next, one of my favorite guests, Evan Sayed, is going to explain to you. He had a great article, and I just want to share it from his mouth about how the Democrats ended up in this situation where they don't even really have a front runner. Who's their front runner for 2028? We knew who it was going to be for 2012, for 2016, for 2020, for 2024, but we don't have one this time. This is the first time in a long time we don't have one. Why is that? Evan figured it out, and he'll tell you next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh, now it's kind of sad. Dan Bongino. Dang it. I was all excited and it made me nostalgic. I wonder how he's doing up there. I wonder how little Dan Bongino's doing it at the FBI. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 WBAP. Now on FM at 93.3. It's strange. I think this might just be a function of my job. But people, when they find out what I do, like to ask me about something in the news. And it's either the thing that they think is most important or a popular story that they don't have some answers for yet. Like, what's going on with XYZ? But usually it's like whatever the big headline of the day is. And then every once in a while, there's some sort of, we call them evergreens. There's some evergreen questions that I get. And so for the people that are more politically focused, because really outside of this show, I'm not that politically focused. And also, I don't talk for 3 hours straight. But I get a lot of, who do you think's running in 2028? And I pay attention to that, especially if I'm hanging out in a group or we're in like a setting like the soccer game or something where I'm just standing around with a bunch of other parents. I get to hear what they talk about. I can't believe how entertaining such an elementary conversation can be, because look at who they've got. If I had to put money on it right now, you may think this is insane. I would say it's going to be AOC with Jasmine Crockett as the VP. And partially because they're so young and unknown and they don't have a whole lot of baggage to come with them. You know, Jasmine Crockett, no one knew her name outside of Dallas here. Since the last year? Maybe 2 years at the most? When was the Bad Built Butch Body? That was just last summer, right? So it's been maybe a year. Well, that's how Obama came on the scene. He was a state legislator for, 1 or 2 terms? And then he got to speak at the DNC. Everyone loved him, got fawning praise, immediately got elected to the Senate. And 180 days into his first Senate term, he ran for president. Almost no record, right? Well, that's an advantage. So you don't need to be thinking, well, whose turn is it or who's been in there the longest? That's just what they've been cycling through for the last 20 years. But I think the front runners are AOC and Jasmine Crockett. Now, that's not who I want to be the nominee. That's not who I prefer. Actually, if I could choose out of all the Democrats, I would choose Mark Cuban. And not just because he's here in Dallas and because he's a Texan. I think he's the most sensible one who has the most solid economic understanding. I think he's not crazy on some of these social issues. I think if I had to choose, like if you said Parker, someone's got to be the president and it's going to be a Democrat. That's our least bad option. But other than that, the only other guy that I think even has a chance would be Bernie Sanders. Really? This guy again? This guy isn't he about the same age as Trump? He's older than Trump, isn't he? Talks funny, looks funny, never brushes his hair. His suit looks like it's just been wrinkled up in his back seat, and then he just put it on before he walked in. He's a mess. But let's go over their top candidates right now. This is AOC this weekend. We're in late stage America.
Also, the other way I think you can think about it is that we are, perhaps we are in the downfall of the broken way. This was not built to last. Inequity, injustice is not built to last. It lasts a long time. It could last hundreds of years, but ultimately it crumbles into this, a small cohort of incompetent people that create damage. And from that,
I'll stop with the music.
Something new can spring. And so maybe something is declining right now, but maybe it deserves to decline.
So I love how the socialists of the world have a term for capitalism when it's crumbling. Late stage capitalism. Is there late stage communism? How dare you call it late stage capitalism when we lasted longer than the Soviet Union? How dare? What's the term for it? Because you remember in the 80s when they were acting like the Soviet Union was a co-equal superpower. Did they say that it was in late stage socialism then? When it was literally months away from breaking up? What was it called then? Oh, we were still making Rocky IV and Red Dawn and acting like they were just on par with us when they were months from breaking up. Let me tell you how late stage America isn't. You know who has the oldest constitution in the world? America. Not only are we not crumbling, we have lasted longer than every other constitutional republic on the planet. The next oldest one is the Republic of Poland, which that's kind of iffy because it sort of has been suspended and reanimated and things. But that's the next closest one, 1791. We barely beat them. But when you look at some of these other countries, like what our Constitution is older than France, Germany, Spain, and England's combined, which is kind of a trick because England doesn't have one. They just go on common law that's been built up since like the Magna Carta, or what's the oldest piece of parchment we can find in the Anglo-Saxon chronicles or whatever. But when you look at some of these other, countries with old constitutions, the Swiss Constitution only goes back to 1848. So you have that late stage America. Yeah, you really love this country, don't you? Is that going to win over people? Yeah, we're in decline. We suck. We used to be good, but we're just losers now. And then you have Bernie Sanders over there, who this is a montage of him from 2003, 2004, 2007, 2009, 2012, 2017, 2021. And I think this last one's from this year, 2025, where he's saying it's always oligarchy.
This great country of ours is moving very rapidly in the direction of oligarchy. The United States of America today is increasingly becoming an oligarchy. More and more moving toward an oligarchy. We are moving in the direction of oligarchy. We will move even more rapidly in the direction of an oligarchy. This great country is evolving into an oligarchic society. It is called oligarchy, and that is the system we are rapidly moving toward. This is a budget that moves our country rapidly into the direction of oligarchy. A handful of billionaires are moving this entire planet toward an oligarchic society.
Start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad, and that is that under Donald Trump, this country is hurtling rapidly toward oligarchy.
And so now we have the Democrat Party with no bench. And why? Because they had to clear the bench to get Obama in. And then they had to clear the bench to get Hillary in. And of course, she didn't win. Then they had to clear the bench to make sure Biden was the guy because he wasn't going to get in with any serious challenges. And so they've sort of had to have the party call away any real challengers, any real grassroots, anyone like a Jasmine Crockett, actually. And they cleared their bench every election since 2008. And now that all the old players are gone, they don't have anybody to step up. Who do you think is the front runner for 2028? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I say right now, AOC and Jasmine Crockett. What do you say? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. So I thought this was interesting. Executive order was signed at the end of last week, expediting the release of the RFK and Martin Luther King Jr. files. Now, I will admit ignorance here, and not the pejorative, the literal use of the word. I really don't know a whole lot about the RFK situation. I know Sirhan Sirhan. I know he's in some hotel and he's a crazy person. I've read the Wikipedia page about it, but I hadn't read books on it. I haven't watched documentaries on it. I have seen like it on TV where it's one of the many assassinations in a larger show about assassinations, but nothing just about the RFK. So I don't know how excited I am about that. In the MLK stuff, I think that's going to be pretty damn interesting, actually, because the rumors around MLK, controversial as they may be, are an excellent discussion to have because it's something that echoes in current politics too. And there's a lot of historic examples. And the rumor for Martin Luther King is he was a philanderer. He maybe wasn't the most completely dedicated husband, and that's been a rumor. And I don't know if I believe it or not, but I also know that it really doesn't matter. And I know that's kind of a shock. Well, he's claiming to be a man of God. He's claiming to be a reverend, and here he is living this double life. He's not some noble, morally upstanding person that we need to listen to. Oh, put a sock in it. Because whether or not he cheated on his wife, I think it's great advice that we be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. And that doesn't change whether he was a philanderer or not. It doesn't matter if he cheated on his wife or he jaywalked or he was running with scissors. I mean, it's great advice. It's similar to the skeptics of the Bible and Christianity and whatnot. Like, even if you don't believe Jesus walked on water or any of the mystic stuff, the miracles or whatnot, it's still pretty good advice to love your neighbor as yourself, and you go through the tenets of Judeo-Christian morality, and it's shown whether you believe in the religion or the spirituality part of it or not. You can even see it echo through history that the societies that follow these tenets and stick to them pretty close tend to do better than the ones who stray away from it. Which isn't that kind of the whole message of the Old Testament, at least the minor prophets? Stay on board. Good things will happen to your society. Stray from the teachings of God. Collapse is coming. And boom, we're still living that. So really, does it matter? I think not. I mean, if you want to make the case that it does, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And I promise I'll be respectful, but I will say I just don't get it. I don't get it. So what? If he cheated on his wife and he wasn't like a good, upstanding Christian, then that's it. We need to go back to judging people based on the color of their skin. See, doesn't that sound dumb? I mean, it's kind of... I think it's a good reminder that maybe we deify people too much. And Martin Luther King, does he deserve to have that big statue in D.C., that's gigantic? I mean, maybe, but, that's not something our founding fathers were big on. That's not something that... we had talked about it about a month ago, where we didn't even put human beings. We didn't put other presidents and founding fathers and whatnot on our money and coinage until well into the 1800s. I think it wasn't until after the Civil War. And what we used to have like on our pennies and stuff, I showed you all of them. In fact, there's a video you can go see. It's on the WBAP official YouTube channel. I think I have it on the Facebook. If you go look through the videos that WBAP the page has on Facebook, I show you the first 10 coins minted in the United States, and none of them had a human being on them. It would have like the Lady Liberty face. Do you know who Lady Liberty is? Yeah, the Statue of Liberty. And she's not a person. She's like an ethereal concept, Lady Liberty, just like the Lady Justice, the lady holding the scales with the blindfolds on, who's wearing like a bed sheet over her chest or whatever. We're not deifying real people. We're deifying concepts. We're deifying liberty. Like, that's the goal, is liberty. We're not supposed to be worshiping people. But I'm looking forward to the release on the RFK and JFK files, because I know RFK Jr. has some interesting theories that are either going to be proven or disproven in the wake of this. And, this guy doesn't have a 100% batting record. None of us do. But he can't be wrong about everything. And I am suspicious of it just because it's been hidden so long. Why can't we know? I'm super skeptical about hiding stuff from the American people. Like, if we discovered aliens, why would they hide it from us? Why would they be hiding Area 51 from us? Well, the general public couldn't take it. There'd be chaos. No, there wouldn't. We probably wouldn't even care. We'd be like, yeah, but are we going to sign Micah Parsons? You know, something like that. Something real trivial and trifling. That's the human nature of people. So we need to know everything about the JFK files. We need to know everything about the RFK files. We need to know everything about the MLK files. And my big one, I haven't forgot. You haven't forgotten. I'll be sure to remind you. We still need the Epstein list. Thank you very much. Period, point blank, end of story. Why don't we have that already? Let's get on that. Chop, chop. Jim Verde, if you're listening, why don't you give Bongino a text? Just float him a text and be like, hey, man, can we get that list? What's going on with that list? We're supposed to have that by now. And we don't. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Catherine in Fort Worth. Welcome to the James Show on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, I have a big fat opinion about it. Partially educated opinion. Kennedy, you were talking about Martin Luther King. You heard or read that he was a philanderer. Okay, well, I don't think they make him any bigger of a philanderer than JFK. And I'm sorry because I loved him. I was 8 years old when he went down.
Oh, Catherine, you sound sweet, so I hate to tell you you're wrong, but I would submit Bill Clinton is far bigger because not only did he cheat on his wife at least 23 times consensually that the other person has admitted to, but he's also credibly accused of a baker's dozen rapes and sexual assaults.
Okay, well, I didn't mean the whole Democratic history. I meant more so than just as much as JFK.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
saying JFK was the philanderer of the three that documents just came out?
Oh, no. I think they might have all three been philanderers. I don't know who wins in that contest, Catherine. I don't know enough to have an opinion on that.
They were all philanderers. And anyway, when I heard that, I'm out and cleaning out my truck, and when I heard that, I thought, whoa, what about Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe? But anyway, who am I, you know?
Yeah, well, and Fiddle Faddle. Do y'all know the story of the Fiddle Faddle? The two secretaries that they all three had fun together? And,
I knew.
Yeah, and they weren't playing Parcheesi either. All right, Catherine, good stuff. Thank you for calling in from Fort Worth. Appreciate that. But look, another reason why I don't go hard on statesmen who happen to be philanderers is because what are we going to do? Jettison Benjamin Franklin? Aren't we glad we didn't ostracize him from not just polite society, but also government? He was quite a philanderer. He knocked up a working girl and then paid her to go away when the baby was born, and then married an ugly woman so the baby would have a mother. I know this sounds terrible, but it's the truth. And he didn't actually fly the kite in the rain where he felt the electricity in the key. He made William do that, his little bastard son from the working girl, the prostitute. He's in a barn standing on a big block of wax, staying dry so he doesn't get shocked. He had his bastard out there with the kite. That's That's the Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. Coming up next, you've seen him on Fox News and CNN and Bloomberg. Gordon Chang is going to be on the James Show to talk about what is going on between the United States and China. We're negotiating somewhat with each other for a new tariff deal, but also is China doing an end around with this Vietnam deal? Find out next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. My next guest is one of these guys where, it's hard for a big ego like me to admit when some guys know more stuff than me, but he definitely knows more than me and you combined about what's going on in the relations between the United States and Canada. Written a whole bunch of books. Gordon Chang, welcome to the James Show. In fact, how do you know so much about the relationship between China and the United States? I've seen you on Fox News and other channels, Bloomberg and whatnot, talking about it. Where does this come from?
I guess it's a lifetime of study. But with China closing up its country, the regime has decided that it was going to bring down the curtain. We know less and less about China right now than we did, for instance, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, and certainly less than we did before COVID. And this occurs periodically through Chinese history. And when this happens, it usually means that the regime feels that it cannot withstand the pressures from the outside. So this is not a good sign, James.
So where are we at with China in negotiating tariff deals? I assume we're talking to them. We just publicly cut off talks with them. What was that, like a week ago or so? But is there still progress being made in the background, or do we even know?
Well, first of all, we don't know. And I don't think that there is. Certainly, we've had President Trump saying he's not talking to the Chinese. We've had the Chinese saying they're not talking to President Trump. And in Beijing right now, the one thing we can see is that Xi Jinping has configured the Chinese political system so that only the most hostile answers are considered acceptable, which means he can't do what he needs to do, which is to pick up the phone and call 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. So China is going to try and tough this out. And this is going to get ugly for the Chinese economy because they definitely need access to the U.S. We've got the world's largest consumer market. Almost 40% of the world's consumer market is in our country. China needs it, and it can't get by without it.
Well, what's your explanation on how all these other countries tried communism and it failed, whether it's the big one, Russia, but also in their little client states like Romania and Poland and Ethiopia and Cambodia, all these other places it's failed, but it stuck around in China and North Korea for some reason. Do you have an explanation for that?
Well, in North Korea, they've got a Kim regime, which it's totalitarian. And it is one where the Kim family has been able to isolate North Korea and able to do what it wants. So I think that's a large part of the explanation, because Korea, for many parts of its history, has been isolated. So the Kim family could just continue that. China, you have a Communist Party which has been determined. It's led by someone who really believes in Maoism, who reveres Mao Zedong, and who is not going to give up that model. It may not make sense. Most Chinese are really quite unhappy about it, but there's very little they can do because China runs a near total surveillance state.
Well, explain what's going on with this Chinese-Vietnamese deal, because I feel like there's a workaround that could be happening behind our backs.
Well, Xi Jinping understands that he's not going to be selling a lot of stuff to the U.S., so he's got to find other countries in which to dump his products, and Vietnam is one of them. The other thing, though, is we know that the U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick has told Vietnam that we know that the Vietnamese are participating in this evasion of U.S. tariffs by these false bills of lading and other means where the Chinese can basically take their products and say they're from Vietnam when they're really from China.
Right.
And so, false bills of lading and all the rest of it. So I'm sure that China is going to go back and try to intimidate the Vietnamese into continuing this. And it's going to get a little bit tense. But clearly, Vietnam is important because they want to manufacture their own. They've got a booming export sector. They want access to the U.S. market. And I think Xi Jinping is trying to force them back in line.
Is Xi Jinping really that solid in power? Because I like the metaphor of this tariff war is really a contest to see which economy can hold its breath the longest. But I think that doesn't count if Xi Jinping is worried about his own hide staying in power, and they might collapse that way. What do you think?
I think that he's not nearly as strong as most people think he is. My view is a minority one. But if you look at, for instance, the infighting at the top of the Chinese military, it appears that Xi Jinping's loyalists are being sacked by Xi Jinping's adversaries. If that's indeed the case, he's probably lost control of the Chinese military. We also can guess that there are a lot of civilian CCP leaders who really would like to get rid of Xi Jinping, but they can't. And they've been quiet for a long time. But if they sense an opening, they'll strike against China's leader. You know, China's leader denied a whole generation of people promotions because he took a third term. You know, when Xi Jinping became general secretary of the Communist Party, people only got 2 terms. That was the guideline, the norm, the rule. And so when Xi Jinping took a third term, he took away the future of a lot of people who I assume are not very happy right now. And so I think there are a lot of people gunning for Xi Jinping, at least figuratively.
Well, you've written books on the imminent Chinese collapse. How long do you think they really have?
Well, I've been early on my predictions, so I've been wrong on that. But I think that we're seeing a failing economy. We are seeing a very unhappy people. We are seeing a hostile external environment, in other words, Donald Trump. And things are not going China's way. So they're being hit with simultaneous crises. I don't think they really have that much longer. But as I said, I've been wrong in the past about this. But anyone, it's not about me. It's about looking at what's going on in China right now and realizing that the regime is a lot weaker than it appears.
Love it. All right, Gordon Chang, you can find his books at gordonchang.com, the latest Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Go check it out. I appreciate your time. We'll have to have you back on, Gordon.
Well, thank you so much, James.
Thank you very much.
It.
There he is, Gordon Chang on The James Show. Coming up next, another update, but I will admit that I don't think you're going to like this. The judge in the case for Carmelo Anthony and the stabbing of the Frisco track meet, it got reduced. Find out how much, and let's talk about if that's too low. Coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, homeowners. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. This is a good idea right now. We're in storm season. Go ahead and get the free roof inspection. If your roof is fine, good. You get a high five. But also it's smart because if in the future something does happen to your roof, you can have some documentation. They'll keep the pictures and the paperwork. And you can tell the insurance company, I can prove it happened from this storm, not from me walking on it or whatever. I can prove because here is the baseline from the free inspection when you were listening to the James Show and you made the smart move by going to blueribbondfw.com. It's not just smart because you can lay a baseline for future insurance claims, but it's also smart because it's a family company. It's a small business. They've been in business here in North Texas for 31 years. And it's started by John and Tish, and now their grown kid, Trevor, is part of the business here. And they're going to come to your house or send a fantastic crew out there that's been with them for years. Do the right thing. And if you do need a patch, a repair, or a whole new roof, they can help you work out the issue with your insurance company too. So go to blueribbondfw.com, blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let me give you an update on one of your least favorite stories of 2025 thus far, the tragic stabbing death of at the Frisco track meet. Carmelo Anthony just had his bond reduced. The update from WFAA.
Yeah, Kara, this hearing just wrapped up about 30 minutes ago. In it, we heard from Carmelo Anthony's father. He testified about his son, and in the end, the judge did decide to lower the bond from $1 million to $250,000. Carmelo Anthony entered the courtroom handcuffed, wearing a yellow inmate jumpsuit. He spoke only to identify himself to the judge and stared straight forward while his father, Andrew Anthony, testified about how his son is the oldest of 4 siblings, a straight-A student, active in his church, and worked 2 jobs while serving as captain of the football and track team. To this point, he's not had any criminal history. All factors his defense brought up when asking the judge to lower the bond. The amount they were asking for was $150,000. The prosecution, though, argued the bond should have stayed at $1 million, even asking Andrew Anthony about the online fundraiser that's raised $412,000 for his son's defense. Ultimately, though, the judge said the purpose of bond is not a punishment, but to ensure the defendant returns for his court dates and to protect the community.
Wow. All right. So that just happened this morning. Thank you, WFAA, for being on top of it. And what do you think about that? The bail situation, I think most people are familiar with it, whether you've seen Jackie Brown or not. But you need 10% of the full bail amount to put up as collateral to get out of jail. Now, the whole point of bail is not part of the punishment. It's to ensure that you're actually going to show up in court. If we let you out, innocent until proven guilty, how do we know you're going to come back? Well, there has to be a giant amount on the table as your incentive to come back. And I think the fundraiser does complicate things, because you could make the case that if you reduce his bail to $250,000, he's not a flight risk. $25,000 is what his family would have to put up. They can't survive without that. But knowing they have $512,000 floating around in a defense fund, well, then is that really still a flight risk? Is there still really the same incentive for him to show up? I'm not so sure. I liked it being higher. And that I will say, because I liked it being at $1 million because of the defense fund, because I know he can come up with it easy. He can come up with $100,000 for a bail bondsman, easy. And then he still has over $300,000 to either, throw at a lawyer or a team of lawyers to get him off the case, or just cash out and go on the lam. We'll see. I think he's probably going to show up. I don't mind that he's getting bail. I liked it at $1 million, and I don't understand why it got lowered so much. What do you think? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Talola and Karen's. You're on WBAP. What do you think about Carmelo's bail being lowered?
I think it's ridiculous that it was lowered. I think it should have stayed at $1 million. I think that offenses like this, there's no consequences, or the consequences definitely don't fit the crime.
Does the defense fund play into that factor, or you would have the same opinion whether or not he had the defense fund?
I would have the same opinion whether he had the defense fund or not.
Well, the caution against that is we have our jurisprudence system is innocent until proven guilty. And so now you run the risk of keeping an innocent guy in jail over trumped up charges just because he can't afford to get out. What's your response to that, Talola?
He's not innocent, number one. He already admitted to committing the crime, and it doesn't fit the circumstances.
Well, he hasn't had the due process to prove him guilty yet, so...
But he voiced that he was guilty.
Well, he voiced he did it. It could be a self-defense claim, which I think is what he's sitting on. So, even if he did do it, if he can establish self-defense. And listen, Talola, we have a video of the event. The Frisco police have custody of a video. I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. But I think when we see that, we won't even have this little gray area that we're kind of, wading around in right now, Talola.
Well, there's a couple of things that are very bothersome about this. What was he doing there under their tent anyway.
Yeah, and why
Especially
does
if
he
you
have a knife? You know, it's not like you're going to
Yep.
be whittling between sprints or whatever. No,
Yep.
these are all good. These are all good questions that we're all thinking here. And I agree with you. I liked it better at $1 million. I like the higher the stakes because these aren't very high stakes. They have $400,000 at their disposal, and if this guy, bails out and goes missing, that's a hard way to be proven right, Talola.
And it's very possible that he will be.
Yep, agreed. All right, great call. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Take it easy in Karen's. It's over by Bug Tussle. This is Steve in Carrollton. You're on WBAP. What do you think about the bond being reduced?
Hey, man. Well, honestly, I think it's not that bad of a deal.
Oh, hey, wait. This is Steve. What's your nickname? Big Black Conservative or something?
Big Bad Black Conservative.
Big Bad Black Conservative. There we go.
If you're on Twitter, follow me, Big Bad Black Con 1.
Yep. No, and he's great. He was at the last James Show listener meetup, and we chatted for like 40 minutes. That was cool. Anyway, go ahead. Your thoughts on this?
Good time. Well, the $250,000 number isn't as like it was said earlier. The plan is not to punish the person, in this case the kid, on bail money, because in fact, until proven guilty, he's not guilty. Of course, the emotional side of this argument goes way overboard, like you'd expect it to when somebody dies or is killed. But the fact is, he's not going anywhere. His parents aren't going anywhere. It's not like he's some freaking hoodlum in the neighborhood or some, I don't know, illegal alien that could dip across the border to Mexico in a heartbeat. It's only $400,000 that he's got, that the family has got. And you say only $400,000 because these lawyers will rip you off in a heartbeat given the opportunity. So, and again, that's also assuming that the website it says they're going to give him the money is actually going to give it to him, because we understood last week that they were trying to figure out a way to not pay that money out. Therefore, he doesn't have the money anyway. So even if he did, it wouldn't be that terrible, but we don't even know if he's actually going to get it paid out.
Well, they were in a mess at the beginning because they had hired this lawyer, and Internet Ninjas immediately dug around in this guy's past, and he was shady, and he had been in trouble with a bunch of other things already. So they already ditched that guy and got a new one who passes through the muster of the internet sleuths out there. So I feel bad for anyone in this situation because, his mom and dad probably have, kids in a career, and they haven't had to think, well, who's my best criminal defense attorney in a situation like this? And they're already, just stubbing their toe on lawyer mistakes. So, yeah, overall.
Right, you add to that, like I said, the kid's not, the family's not going anywhere. And so the plan for bail is to make sure that they don't ditch, they don't jump ship and take off. Well, they're not. They're obviously not going anywhere, especially with a measly $400,000 in the bank. You say measly only because if you're able to live in Frisco in a decent-sized house, $400,000 is really not that much. That's a couple years' worth of salary at best for somebody who lives in that area. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
to them.
I think, they don't have any foreign ties. They don't have I'm assuming they don't have family overseas or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't think they're much of a flight risk either. And, yeah, $400,000 house. They're doing better than old Parker here. Good call. Steve in Carrollton. Good to have you back on the show. All right. Carmelo Anthony gets his bond reduced in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf. 800-288-9227. We'll continue with that next. If you want to be after Rick and Aaron, call 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, this story is getting a lot of national attention. People are talking about it just casually speaking in social settings over the weekend. And it's terrible. We're talking about the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf at the Frisco track meet. Carmelo Anthony just got his bond reduced this morning. So this is kind of breaking news. But I don't like it. It was set at $1 million. They have a fund that they're raising. It's not GoFundMe. What's the Give, Send, Seek or something like that? Give, Send, Go. But they have the money to do it, and it can be used for that. So why not make them just dip into that defense fund and go ahead and do the original bail of $1 million? Because this is some pretty serious circumstances here. In my point of view, I have no legal training, nor have I been a bail bondsman or a judge. But from the outside, this does not look good. I don't like this. 800-288-9227. Let's talk to Rick in Dallas. You're on WBAP. What do you think about the bond being reduced?
Hey, James, listen, I completely disagree with that last caller and agree with the lady you had on before that. As someone I'm a retired bail enforcement agent, so in 8.5 years, I tracked down 364 people.
Wait, hey, hang on. When you say bail enforcement agent, do you just mean like a bail bondsman, or is there some legal equivalent of that?
Not a bail bondsman. My bail bondsmen were my clients. A bail enforcement agent is someone who tracks down the people who skip out on bail, find them, arrest them, take them back to whatever jail.
That's not the same dude?
No.
Okay, because look, I know this is going to sound dumb to you, Rick, but work with me here. The majority of my bail bond industry expertise comes from the Tarantino movie Jackie Brown.
Yeah, well.
Have you seen it? How accurate is that? Because not Forrest Whitaker. What's his name? Robert Forrest. What was his name? Forrester? Robert Forster?
I haven't actually seen that movie, but here's what I can tell you. The bail bondsman has the right and the ability to do the same thing as a bail enforcement agent can do. Most bail bondsmen prefer to hire a bail enforcement agent rather than go and
do it themselves. Because Robert Forster talked about his character talked about having to break into a guy's house and wait on his couch with a taser for him to come home so he could zap him and take him in.
That's totally accurate.
That's what you did?
Yep.
Okay, because like I saw Dog the Bounty Hunter, and that didn't seem like anything close to reality. That all seems so contrived and set up. I don't put any stock in that. But you would love Jackie Brown, it sounds like, because it's Robert Forster and the guy who played Debo. The Debo's in it, and they're bail bondsmen. I don't know. It's all I know.
Even Dog the Bounty Hunter actually has a lot of realism to it.
Interesting.
It's dramatized a little bit, but not much. So, but let me explain to you why it is that I disagree with your last caller.
Please do.
In 364 bail arrests, I have chased down people who literally their mom put up their house for the bail bondsman to get them out of jail. A 17-year-old, 18-year-old, or even a 25-year-old sometimes does not have the concept in their head of what that $400,000 figure or $500,000 figure or even $25,000 figure means. All they know is that they're out of jail and they want to stay out of jail. So the next thing you know, you'll find them shacked up at the baby mama's cousin's house or something where there's no paper trail, and so it's really hard to find them. But they'll do that in a heartbeat.
No.
I've actually had mothers pay bounties for me to go after someone who was hiding in a different state just because they were going to lose their house if they didn't.
So I think we all want to hear your thoughts on what's the likelihood of this guy running.
Highly likely. In fact, I would almost bet on it.
Wow. And so what do you think his bail should be set at?
Oh, at least $1 million. At least $1 million. And even then, the fact that, honestly, I wouldn't put up bail at all. Because
I kind of cringe at that because innocent until proven guilty. You just need to put a whole big incentive to make sure he shows up to court. But I mean, you've done this a lot more than I have, so that's kind of exactly what we were hoping a caller would say. Is I've done this 374 times or whatever it was, and this seems a little low. Good stuff, Rick. All right, appreciate that. 800-288-9227. Carmelo Anthony's bond gets reduced. We'll talk about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Top local story of the day, Carmelo Anthony bond gets reduced from $1 million to $250,000. And we all expect him to get out pretty soon based on that. You heard a great soundbite there in the news update. And it's hard to have a strong opinion about this and the fact that it feels real emotional. But I've been watching and reporting on similar cases like this, and $1 million seems to have been the standard. And lowering it to $250,000. I mean, someone explain to me how that's a good thing. Someone explain to me how justice is better served. That if he was going to be able to pass the bar or be able to put up bail, even if it was at $1 million, why are we reducing it here? Why are we reducing the incentive for him to show up to court? What's the advantage of that? If he turns out to be innocent, you get the money back, or at least 90% of it back. I am really struggling here to see what the devil's advocate position is on this. Other than you think the guy's totally innocent and he shouldn't have been arrested in the first place, which I would like to hear from you too, because there's a video out there that the Frisco police have confirmed that is in their custody that will eventually be released to the general public. I don't know if it'll happen before the trial or if this is one of those situations where they use the excuse, well, we don't want to taint the jury pool, but we'll find out. So all you people who have really strong opinions, one way or the other, one of you is going to be exonerated and the other one is going to be embarrassed when that video comes out. 800-288-9227. This is Aaron in Plano. You're on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
Hi. Your very own newscast and the bail bondsman fellow pretty much solidified my opinion that he should have been remanded to custody.
You mean no bail at all?
Yeah, and the news report says it all. He grew up in a great family, in a great neighborhood, went to school, has great grades, and holds 2 jobs. What the hell set him off then? And if that's something set him off and it was that easy to provoke him, I mean, you've been to high school. How many times you get needled and poked and cajoled and disrespected in high school? And this thing set him off. He brought a knife. I mean, that's not somebody that's stable or reliable to me.
Yeah, well, there's a few little details that make this different than your regular old stabbing story or murder story, because we have kids, and I don't mean kids like, in daycare, but, minors and young adults getting shot and stabbed on quite a regular basis around here. And they don't all get the same attention as this one, but they don't also fit this model where you can't just write this off to where, this is a beef over drug territory. They're at a track meet. This isn't gang violence. This isn't someone spraying bullets into a crowd because they got shorted on a drug deal or something. This is a guy whose parents probably make more money than you do. And I don't mean you, I just mean the editorial you. I look at it. If you're in Frisco, you're doing okay. You're on the right side of the tracks.
James, that just lends even more to the instability of this.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm going. This makes it sound like this guy is he's an empath, a sociopath, or psychopath, and he just doesn't have that human connection. That I don't. It's probably not a genetic thing or whatever, but like American Psycho, like that guy is just detached and stabbing some other human being doesn't mean the same thing as it does to the rest of us, with the full range of human emotions and empathy. And so one of the horrible lessons you learn is about 2% of the population is born capable of doing such things, killing another human being, psychopath or sociopath. And you don't find out until they do it. And so they go all through childhood and they just haven't been able to act out on it. And so what do? Do you just start locking up all the psychopaths? No, you actually have to wait till they kill someone or stab someone or try and kill someone before you can put cuffs on them and throw them in a box. And so there's just an ugly process of when we grow up of having to weed out the psychopaths and the murderers, if he is such a thing. And There is no shortcut. You kind of do have to wait until they break the law. And here's another thing that I hear that maybe not everyone else hears. There's a guy that was on my soccer team in high school, and I grew up with him in Bug Tussle. I knew him since I was in like third grade. He has already been put to death by the state of Texas because he also committed a murder. And he seemed like a nice kid. He was from the nice side of the tracks. He was well behaved in school. He got good grades. My grandmother was his teacher in reading in 7th grade, and she liked him. But apparently
Hey, James. James, can I tell you about my gym teacher at Ann Arbor who killed his wife in front of 2 nuns and the police?
Good Lord. Yeah.
Mo Abrams. Look it up. Ann Arbor News. Morris Abraham.
Yeah. So I've got one too. There was a guy who, a guy that graduated a year before me had inherited some money. And so Justin and Brent went and kidnapped him and made him go to the ATM and withdraw a bunch of money. And then they shot him. And he's already been put to death by the state of Texas. But I heard the same thing. He did have good grades. He was a nice kid. I was his friend. He was on our soccer team. I didn't know he was capable of such things. So yeah, some of the nicest guys with great grades and a good family and a big house on the right side of town, going to a good school. You just have to find out the hard way that they're also capable of murder. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to the patent professor. What's going on with the Tesla backlash, Elon, Trump, and what can we do about that? That's coming up next. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Remember last week when you told the economy's headed for an apocalypse? Apocalypse not so bad, is it? Spencer McGowan, he's my next guest from Net Worth Radio. Welcome back, Spencer. I thought the apocalypse would be a little more apocalyptic than this. So I am not so optimistic to say we're out of the woods yet. We don't have all these trade deals in. We don't know how China's going to react. But I think generally speaking, if someone had to nail me down and say, do you think the worst is over? I think I would say yes. Well, I'm surprised that they're going to wait so long to do something about the taxes. The old Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017 expires December 31st. And is this something that they're going to walk up to the wire on and try and negotiate with at the last second? I just assumed this was something that would be done in like the last spending bill or something. Well, let's also talk about the people who are very unhappy with how much their IRA or 401k went down in this last downturn. If you didn't like that, you probably need to make some changes in how you're allocated. What does that entail, Spencer? So let's talk about another impossible question. Where are we going to be a year from now, Spencer? All right, there he is. That's Spencer McGowan, Net Worth Radio. You can hear him on the weekends here on WBAP. Thank you very much for your time, sir. All right. See, optimism. No need to freak out. The world's not ending. We have Blue Ribbon Roofing's 2025 WeatherCon with WBAP's chief meteorologist Brad Barton. Fox 4's chief meteorologist is going to be there as well. It's coming up Saturday, April 26th. You need to go ahead and get this on your calendar because it's happening not this weekend, but next. April 26th. It's happening at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. It's over next to Love Field from 9:30 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon. There's going to be all kinds of exhibits and booths and scientific stuff for the kiddos and for storm chasers and anyone who's interested in weather, or really most people I think were out there just to get a selfie with Hal J. That's cool too because it doesn't cost you anything. Blue Ribbon Roofing's 2025 WeatherCon is free because Blue Ribbon Roofing's covering that for you. And really, I just want to stress as hard as possible, activities for the kids. I was really impressed with it last year. It's something that I'm probably going to drag my kids to too, because it's so hard to find something for kiddos that's not dumb and there's like an educational element in it and they're actually interested. So come on out to WeatherCon, April 26th, Frontiers of Flight Museum with WBAP and Blue Ribbon Roofing. I'm James Parker. Dead or Alive is coming up next. This week's edition, the SNL, the Saturday Night Live edition of Dead or Alive. We're going to be playing for, of course, there's tickets involved. Don't worry. It's to Collective Soul and Live. They're going to be there with Our Lady Peace on August 13th. I'm giving away a pair in the next segment. So if you are interested in getting some tickets, you don't even have to know all of them. It's just going to cycle through, and whoever is on the phone at the end gets 2 tickets to see Collective Soul with Dead or Alive. Collective Soul, Live, Our Lady Peace. Call right now, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Dead or Alive next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services on the James Show. And Bob, when we talk about interest rates, people are trying to time the market and is this a good time to buy or not? I think it's always a good time to buy because if interest rates go down, you can always refinance, Bob.
Well, the thing I hear all the time, people, that are waiting for that perfect time. First of all, nobody knows. I mean, believe it or not, it's like whether today it's in the 5s or it's going to be 6.25 tomorrow. The difference in the long haul doesn't really matter all that much. But what really does matter is, are you building equity or are you still going to be paying it in rent,
Right. And so we still have also people who are worried about getting out of the rent race into home ownership, and someone pushes them. It could be your spouse. It could be your parents. It could be your business partner. But, that last little motivation, I don't think a whole lot of people regret getting into home ownership.
I've never honestly had anyone come back and be angry that they bought a home, built up 100, 200,000 or more of equity. I've had a few people over the last 30 years say, I wished I would have done it before. And I'm going to close it out with, I love your Dead or Alive thing, and I never get to play. So I'm going to take a wild stab. And on the SNL people, I'm going to say they're all dead because they are to me after the way they do their political stuff.
Oh, Bob, no. All right. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services, 972-392-9595. 972-392-9595. You're not dead to Bob, just the SNL people. Go to blessyourheart.com or 972-392-9595. Thanks again, Bob.
Amen, James.
Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You've reached the easier of the James Show game shows. This is Dead or Alive, the Saturday Night Live edition. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jovi. Welcome to Dead or Alive. I'm your host, James Parker. Today we are playing for 2 tickets to see Collective Soul and Live and Our Lady Peace. They will be at the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory on August 13th. For the rest of us plebeian masses, we can get tickets and information at livenation.com. But for some special person in North Texas right now, they're going to win a pair from Dead or Alive. Where do we start? Midlothian? Okay. Sean in Midlothian, you're first up on Dead or Alive. Saturday Night Live edition. You ready, sir?
Let's do it.
All right. Number 1. Chevy Chase, is he dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. Chris Farley, dead or alive?
Dead.
He is dead. Died in 1997. Yikes.
Yep.
John Belushi, dead or alive?
Dead.
Died in 1982. Dana Carvey, dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. He is today 69 years old.
Wow.
Nice. Bill Murray, dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. Norm Macdonald, dead or alive?
Alive.
Norm Macdonald has passed. He died. Yeah, he just died, last year at age 61. You were doing great, Sean. Thank you, sir.
All right, bro.
This is Rodney and Aubrey. You ready for Dead or Alive?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're on Phil Hartman, dead or alive?
Alive.
Phil Hartman died in 1998, sir.
Oh.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. This is John in Fort Worth. You ready for Dead or Alive?
You bet I am, man.
All right. You only got 3 left. Let's see if you can do it. Dan Aykroyd, dead or alive?
He is alive.
He's alive, 72 years old. Gilda Radner, dead or alive?
Oh, man, she's dead. I hate to say it.
Yeah, she died in 1989. And finally, number 10 on the list for today's Dead or Alive, Adam Sandler, dead or alive?
He is alive.
Yeah, he's only 58. I just want to throw in a curveball there. All right, thank you very much, John in Fort Worth. Are you able to go to on August 13th, Collective Soul, Live, Our Lady Peace?
Absolutely, man.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, I know. I love all 3 of those bands. That's a good one. All right, I'll put you on hold, John. Garrett will get your information. We email you the tickets these days, and you don't even have to come to the studio and pick them up. So for the rest of us, livenation.com, if you want to get tickets, they'll be at the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory August 13th. This has been today's edition of Dead or Alive. Mr. Jovi? There you go. Yeah, Mr. Jovi's, he's kind of new here. All right, so Dead or Alive is the one game show. The other game show that we do every week is on Fridays, same time, but we do Name That Artist. A couple of people have been asking, throwing in some emails since we've been talking. Every single person who has emailed me about the Carmelo Anthony bond says it shouldn't have been reduced. And pretty much everyone who has expressed an opinion on whether or not they think he's guilty, pretty much everyone's calling him a murderer already. Look, from the evidence that we've seen, and if you haven't seen it, there's an 11-page police report. I think I've retweeted it before. And today I retweeted from the bond hearing that happened. It's already online. I retweeted that. Go read this stuff yourself. And I think we will all have a little bit of closure here in our opinion that does, you got to admit, there's a little bit of gray area in it. Frisco police have confirmed that they have a video of the event. I don't know what it's from. I don't know if it's their surveillance video from all the way across on the other side of the stadium. I don't know if there was just a kid 3 seats away with the cell phone video. I don't know. But I think we are all going to have a little, how nice would it be if we had any video whatsoever of the Trayvon situation or the Freddie Gray, or we did have Eric Gardner, or some of these other ones like what was his name, Michael Brown over in Ferguson, or I don't know, we had the George Floyd video that didn't seem to help very much. But I'm still holding out a little bit of hope that a lot of people will have their gray area turned to black and white as soon as that video is released. Also, coming up next, it's going to be a segment full of feedback. I did a story from WFAA last week. We were talking about issues with squatters in Texas, and there had been some local events that people were telling me about around here where they were dealing with squatters, because there's some legislation going through Austin right now that may be taking care of some of that. But wait till you hear these crazy squatter stories coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay, we got breaking news here on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I might have to tell you the squatter stories tomorrow because they are horrible. Absolutely horrible. But here's the breaking news. Carmelo Anthony is out of jail. That's, no, wrong button, Jesus. That wasn't funny at all. Sorry about that. Collin County judge reduced the bond for Carmelo Anthony this morning. We all speculated for most of the last 3 hours that he'll probably be out of jail soon. And now the 17-year-old student from Frisco Centennial High School has been released from jail this afternoon. So he is, I've been getting a lot of info on this judge, and that might be another segment we do tomorrow. Judge Angela Tucker made the ruling this morning. And under the new bond conditions here, he's going to have to wear an ankle monitor and get permission to leave his home. But listen, I'm hoping for the best case scenario as far as justice is concerned, because we're past the best case scenario. A murder's already happened. Some family is going to have an empty chair at Christmas for the rest of their lives. So the second best thing is the guy that did it, the guy that's guilty. Can we possibly make sure this guy gets punished in a commensurate manner? And, ultimately, emotions are high right now. My emotions are high right now. If this guy really did it and we know he's guilty, it's terrible that he's getting out, that he gets to enjoy another year or so of freedom that he doesn't deserve. But we don't know that. That's what due process is for. And as ugly as it is and as tough as it is, until due process happens, we have a system in this culture and this society that's worked pretty well called innocent until proven guilty. And it's more important that guilty people walk free than innocent people be jailed. And that's just the morality of our Judeo-Christian heritage and our work ethic. And some say it's from the Enlightenment, but it's from way before that, because that's not where that started. But we have, there's already been a tornado of controversy around this because they had to switch out lawyers at the end of last week. Did you hear about that? The first law firm that he got a hold of, that the family got a hold of, not really the up and up people that I think they were expecting. And not that I know everything in detail about this law firm, but there was some sleuths on the internet that were already pulling up some shady stuff that's been connected with some lawyers. And it's not hard to find that for some law firms. But this new guy, I don't see anyone really complaining about it. And it's the type of people that would dig in and complain. But they say at the hearing this morning, Carmelo Anthony's father testified as a witness. And about 10 people attended the hearing in support of Anthony. But family, as a dad, I don't know what I would do if that was my son in that spot. Because, I have 4 kids, 2 of them are boys. What if one of my boys stabbed another kid in the heart at a track meet, at a school function like that? Would I want him to get out of jail? Absolutely. But if he's found guilty in a court of law, would I suffer the pain of watching him spend the rest of his life in prison? Painfully, absolutely. It isn't absolutely, but it's quite painful. And you can, try and be as Christian about it as possible and say, God can work even through, the most flawed of people. Then fine, God can go work through him in prison. God can help him bring other prisoners to the Lord or whatever, or help people out, or maybe he can write a book or start a blog, or I don't know what, but he's going to do it from prison. And there's no good outcome overall for this. We're way past that. It doesn't matter what happens from here on out. The Metcalf family will never be made whole. No family who loses a child like this will ever be made whole. And I don't want to drag you down here, like hand you a cinder block while you're treading water. But there's an empty chair at Christmas for every one of the stories that comes across. When you look at the local news, you would make yourself crazy if you tried to attach that level of gravity to national news. But just here in your own backyard in North Texas, we have The regular stories coming across of, well, some 17-year-old was found shot to death in an alley behind a building in Balk Springs, or some kid was found with a stab wound in East Oak Cliff, or some kid was there was a hit and run in Plano. You know, there are people that are killed. There's homicides that happen, and I don't want to say on a daily basis, but it's pretty close. I mean, we're in a metropolitan area of 8 million people. Every one of them carry that level of weight for whatever family is standing behind the victim there. And it's so strange how some of these stories get so much attention and we get wrapped up in it. And I'm guilty too. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm guilty too. Why don't we care about all 16 and 17-year-olds that get killed in such a manner? About the ones where it's just shadowy circumstances, like someone was spraying bullets in an apartment lot the parking lot of an apartment complex, and a 17-year-old was shot and killed. We don't care about that one as much. You know, it's strange. It's almost like the media tells you which ones you're supposed to care about and which ones you're not supposed to care about. But this is a story that I think is riding on the weight of public interest more so than being pushed by the media. It's almost like you're pulling the media to cover this, because look, they know, whether it's the Dallas Morning News or a TV station or whoever else. Heck, even we got metrics here. We know when we put up a story what people are clicking on, what people are passing around. We know when we put on Twitter what people share. And so this is a story that if it ever got a little bit more national traction, this would be interesting, because we don't have a whole lot of these stories. Name the other story where we have the victim's white and the perp is black, and we paid as much attention to it as we did for a Trayvon, or for a George Floyd, or for a Michael Brown, or for a Eric Garner, or for a Freddie Gray, or for a Philando Castile, or an Alton Sterling. Shall I go on? Why is it we never have riots? Why is there not any murals of someone who was heinously murdered that matches my skin tone? That's weird too, isn't it? Are we breaking that ugly cycle with this one? Boy, I hope so. I really hope at some point, like my grandkids are going to be so far past this race stuff that it's not even an issue anymore. Because I really thought in the 90s, like, things were doing pretty good. We had East Germany and West Germany finally reuniting. We all admitted socialism was bad and capitalism was good. Race relations were a lot better than they are now. And it seems we've taken some step backwards. Now we have socialists in positions of power. AOC and Bernie Sanders are your two front runners for 2028. We have racism that's flared its ugly head back up again, and we can't stop having riots and issues over these terrible stories, but they all seem to go one way. Terrible day, but that's the news there. You heard it first here. Carmelo Anthony is out on bail. We'll continue this story tomorrow. Stick around. Coming up next, Mark Levin after the James Show. And also, don't forget, we have the 2025 Blue Ribbon Roofing WeatherCon coming up April 26th. For more information on that, check it out at WBAP.com. I'm James Parker. This has been the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.